Yeah, so since Pharaoh Sanders has passed, and you guys have a deep history with one another, now it seems like some people that were associated with him and the music and putting out, associated with putting out his records. Now that they're getting in touch with you and reaching out with some opportunities. You played a gig up in New York as a tribute to Pharaoh, a couple weeks
Brooklyn.
back. Yeah.
It was in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
Home.
Yeah, and that had a nice turnout. It seemed like people were, there to get a taste of, Pharaoh's contribution to music, and since you're the only living collaborator that was on the record that they put out recently, that they re-released. I had a great time. It was great to hear you playing in that context, different than what you usually do. Because this is more of
no rehearsal, first
right.
time, boom, which is how it was with Pharaoh. That's how it was with him. He can just start playing, and it was right because he was right with himself.
Yeah, so you did that one gig, and now you have the opportunity to go over to Europe and do a few festival-style dates. And I was just wondering if you wanted to speak on that, speak on now these opportunities coming up now, and how you feel about it.
Well, I feel great about it. I miss Pharaoh. We were very close. Over 40 years playing on and off together. So there's a missing. But with the missing comes the opportunity to say something about Pharaoh by playing relative to Pharaoh, that is, with his people, the Loa Bap people, and some of the people who knew him, who were also at this engagement, right, this celebration of farewell to Pharaoh that we enjoyed in Brooklyn, where I was also fortunate enough to meet some of the Coltrane descendants, and Pharaoh's people. And that was very important because, this is really about family. The music is really all about family. And so family members play a very powerful and very important part in the legacy of each and every one of us. So Pharaoh's family was there. Coltrane's family was there, representatives. And I had family there as well, from my Brooklyn contingency related, let's say, areas of New York who assembled for the first time to hear me play ever, and it happened to be at this particular celebration of Pharaoh's presence and beauty, music, and mastery of what it was that he was here to share with everybody. So it was a great time, a very special time. Profound farewell to our brother Pharaoh.
Yeah. And now you're going to continue that with a few dates in Europe, I believe.
Right, his people, his producers offered me an opportunity to go out with them to Europe to do, we can call it a jazz festival tour, if we care to. For me, it's a continuation of being with Pharaoh and playing according to the code that we played from, which is to be happy and share that with people. Say, be happy, share it with people. Heal yourself, but always for the purpose of healing the people and using the music and the sound and good feeling to communicate with people out there through the music. So this is something which I'm looking forward to doing, and it's not unrelated to what I have been doing with my own group, with Moses, Medeski, and Yaka, Tom Pate. So all of these cats have been instrumental to, and Paul Schaefer. We've done a lot of work with Paul too, So all of these great musicians have contributed to my ability to sustain much of what I was doing with Pharaoh going back 50 years. Phew.
In terms of when you were playing with Pharaoh, how would you describe the music, if you can categorize it or give people a sense of what you guys were doing together?
Well, Pharaoh is, let's say, generally a free player. So the freedom to play is essential to the kind of music we were playing. And we're talking about impulsive, let's say, creative, intuitive, on the spot, in the moment, manifestations of melodic forms and so on. However, Pharaoh was also a member of the John Coltrane band, and that was his teacher. I'm saying that. And so there was something more than just free music when we're talking about then the John Coltrane. So what I would add, which enabled us to be together for one thing, not just as musicians, but as spiritual players. So it was the spiritual element, religious element, devotional element that Coltrane himself brought into, let's say, the music of jazz. That's part of his music. See? And so Pharaoh and I continued that and loved playing together because that religious element was natural for us to recognize and play from. We're very religious cats, you might say. So whereas working musicians often finish their gigs and they talk about gigs and they talk about the world and all of that, Pharaoh and I rarely ever talked about those things as much as we needed to talk about the spirit. So we go on long walks after a gig talking, and of course he was interested in astrology and I was into astrology, and so we would talk about that and talk about our relationship to the stars or the planets or the heavens. It wasn't always about music and women and romance. It was really about philosophy, metaphysics, and the spiritual side of what we're capable of enjoying as human beings, more than just suffering materialism, let us say. So there was a yogic element, a dharmic element to my association with Pharaoh, and I brought that to him. And I think that's one of the drawing forces in our relationship. He wanted to hear what I had to say about certain things he felt were reinforcing his understanding of it. And so we were a good team, and then when we got to the bandstand, we made great music, and I really loved it. I still love it when I hear some of it. And we fortunately made some records. One of my favorites is Spirit World. Spirit World, where Pharaoh and I are blowing in this kind of ecstatic freedom of heart-awakened, conscious music.
How would you say your family background, your roots, helped you to be with Pharaoh, or meet with him, or be able to play with him, any of that?
Well, as the story goes, my father was a drummer, and he played as a teenager in various orchestras, Spanish orchestras, Latin. I don't know if it was Latin jazz, but it was typical Latin American music. And so he had a reputation. But he was known as the drummer. And so I was born to a drummer, so it's natural that I became a drummer myself. And my mother says, as she says it with Nancy's sort of interview, which is on the web, mother says, oh, Tisziji was banging when he was 2 years old. we know that I've been banging ever since. Still banging on the drums, mentally, emotionally, culturally, and spiritually as well. Right. So we're talking about drum backgrounds. I was fortunate as a child to have been brought from my porch in Brooklyn, where I had my drums. I was a young, but I had multiple conga drums and percussive instruments that I played, which I love playing all the time. You know, and in the culture, when you play those instruments, people are prone to dance to it because they're rhythmic. I guess you might say empowerment for certain people to get up and dance and remove themselves from their suffering. So the drums have an educative, cultural, and spiritual function in my family. All right, so that means I was attuned with African energy, consistent with my black roots, African roots, Puerto Rican African roots. And so being related to Pharaoh in a certain way enabled me to, in the beginning, play percussion with Pharaoh. I would be playing percussion when we would meet at gigs, his gigs. And then I brought the guitar in slowly, and he was okay with the guitar. Right? In the beginning, it may have been a little bit raw, but Pharaoh was feeding me, playing in my face. Right? Pharaoh was feeding me what he was doing and what he had inherited in terms of spiritual sound and spiritual impulse or spiritual urge that resonated with my own. And so it was very dynamic, very intense between me and Pharaoh. Again, I've used it one of my classic records, Spirit World. You want to hear two guys go at it in love and in passion? Listen to Spirit World. It has all of that, with Rashid Ali also on that record as part of the explosion. And Don Pate, of course, and then Bernie Sininsky. So all of these cats were part of the dynamic that we used to demonstrate, I would say, the transcendent level of this music.